Good morning. Welcome to Monday. I'm told, Kathy, that you want to go first. You're cutting in front of the line, are you?
I'm cutting in line.
Okay,
Yes.
so go
We're
ahead.
okay. For my agenda item for tomorrow, we have the certification of the levy for the general fund and the road funds. And on the general fund, the certified levy amount will be $21,281,720. I'm sorry, let me say that again. $21,281,720. And that includes 0% increase for the dollar increase and a 0% increase for the levy. It includes $362,045 for new construction and $6,954 for state assessed property, as well as a refund levy of $79,020. And this was previously workshopped with the commissioners, in which you asked for a 0% increase based upon last year's levy amount.
Okay. We already approved what we want to do. You're just putting numbers to it.
Yes, we're putting the resolution that will be that we're recommending you approve tomorrow.
Okay.
And then for the road fund, same thing. We are recommending a 0% increase over last year's and $0 increase over last year's for a total levy of $14,695,937, which includes $289,591 for new construction and $3,067 for state assessed value, as well as a $51,028 for the refund levy, for the administrative refund levy.
Okay. This is all part of the public hearing tomorrow at 9:30.
Yes, two resolutions, one for the general fund and one for the road fund.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Are you in or are you on vacation? You're going to Zoom?
I'm going to zoom in from Texas. I'll be here in Waco, Texas.
Okay. No, that's fine.
But I'll be zoomed in and available to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. See you tomorrow.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay.
IT, are they on? Okay.
Good morning.
Morning, Travis.
Good morning, Travis Foschini, IT Director. I'm here for approval on Cisco Duo security licenses. So this is something that enables multi-factor authentication, lets you verify your identity, and this is an annual license. We're looking for approval on a quote of $56,039, and that's represents 0 increase from last year to this year.
Okay. I'm just writing. Same
Sure.
amount as last year.
Same amount, no change, no increase.
Is that just a subscription, Travis?
It is. It's a 1-year term subscription license, but it does not auto renew.
I'm assuming you've been happy with what they've been doing, or we probably wouldn't be seeing it.
That's correct. And there are alternatives in the market, but this is the leading one for multiple reasons. So it makes sense to continue as is.
Okay. Any questions on it? We're good?
We're good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Travis?
Lower Columbia Fish Recovery Board? Is that just I think we're just extending our okay. Well, let's move to HHS.
Hey, good morning, Health and Human Services. We have two items on the agenda tomorrow. One is just a call for public hearing. So we have a hearing we're scheduling to review our local homeless housing plan. That's a requirement of the state. So we'll have that hearing December 16th. And then the other item on the agenda tomorrow is a workshop with Community House on Broadway. They're following up from a funding request they submitted to the commissioners. Must have been a month or two ago now when the Consolidated Homeless Grant was coming in front of the board. They had sent in a funding request. I think they've been kind of working on it again and would like to come and talk to the board about that.
Gina, is that for Community House or is that for Beth's Place?
So I think that's part of what they're fine tuning it with their request. They have a couple of different requests. So one of them has to do with Community House, some renovation costs. There's another part of the request is for shelter operation expenses, which may be focused more on Beth's Place. And then they may have a couple other things too they want to talk to the board about. And it sounds like requesting funds from the Consolidated Homeless Grant, but maybe also document recording fees depending on what they're requesting and what's eligible. So some of their renovation costs that I think they'll be requesting, for example, I don't think we could support with the Consolidated Homeless Grant. So that might be a request for document recording fees. I do have, I'll hand this out, an overview of our document recording fees, where we're at, what we have available. So you can look over that and have that ahead of time. We also have early in December, Housing Opportunities of Southwest Washington coming in with their request as well, which would be all document recording fees primarily. So I just want to make sure you have kind of the big picture of what's available. Let me hand this out.
Do we know what Hoswau's ask is gonna be?
Theirs is around $1 million. I know that.
Thank you. Nope, I missed it. My bad.
I don't know exact amount, but that's what my understanding was.
So what you see on here is what for 2025, where it says DRF, that's document recording fees. We also are showing 2025 1406 funds. And then we have some of our CHG funds on here that we've been utilizing for a couple of our contracts. We'll actually talk more about that later on. But so for document recording fees, and then we have an estimate as well for 2026. We have the beginning fund balance. You can see in 25, we started about 1.9 million. We have our expenditures. We have our two bigger projects included in here right now with Habitat and Catlin and Maine project. So we anticipate ending the year about 1.4 million. As I mentioned, I have the later on in the agenda today to talk more about what contracts we have that are expiring and renewing, or I'm proposing to extend and whatnot that will affect these numbers for 26. But just wanted you to have an idea of what this looks like for our upcoming funding requests.
What is 1406?
1406 is a portion of the state's sales tax that counties were allowed to. Yep. It's not It's not a lot of funding. 166,000, there's a cap to it, so we collect it usually just the first 5 or 6 months of the year, and then we hit the cap and it's done for the year.
I have a question for you on the call for public hearing, the
Mhm.
homeless housing plan. You have any idea how much time was spent on that and what the cost would have been to us?
To do that plan?
Yeah,
The task force has been working on it for probably the bulk of 2025 in their monthly meetings. Hearing from guest speakers and then also just taking a look at language and giving suggestions for changes. So those once a month meetings, and then my time doing, in between making those adjustments. I don't know what it really equates to in terms of time.
your time is priceless, right? Why I ask is, Wasac is looking at a bill to put in, I don't know what they had a name for it, but basically they're looking at little things to try and save counties money. And one of them is because this plan is really driven by DOC anyways. It comes out, if you look at the last one, it's pretty much DOC.
Mhm.
That DOC, you just give us the plan and we'll figure out how to implement it to save us some money. So my question is, would that be worthwhile or?
Well, and I would tell you, all of my time I spend working on that plan, I bill to the Commerce Grant. So that's how I'm paying for my time, is billing it to that CHG grant.
Okay, so I'm hearing is probably negligible. It's not a big thing, at least for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we do, and the advantage of the way it's set up now is that we can put in other things, right? So Commerce has a lot of their requirements that we have to include, but we can also put in our own as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we actually spent quite a bit of time making sure that we customize it to our area and to our needs here,
Mhm.
that plan.
But it has to be approved by Commerce so they can undo anything.
Has to be approved by Commerce. Yeah, I don't know what that looks like. We've not been in that spot before where they've come back to us and said, hey,
Yeah.
this
Well-
isn't in compliance, but
I'm trying to get a sense because I'm kind of on the fence of this thing just for that reason.
Yeah,
I want to be able to put some personal touches in it if we can. And if it's, I'm not hearing cha-ching dollars, so I don't know if I'd be in favor of doing that. Okay. Just trying to think that through.
yeah.
Anything
Any other
else?
questions for me? I'll be back later.
You'll be
Are
back
we-
later?
did we move the task force meeting since it fell on Thursday?
So I'm actually, yes, we did. It was rescheduled to December 4th, but I'm actually going to cancel it because the hearing's not till the 16th. And so I think we'll be good with canceling it. The group did ask, and I'll send you all an email to get your feedback, but the group had started talking about what their work looks like moving forward now that the plan is sort of wrapping up. And that's kind of the primary purpose of the Homeless Housing Task Force, is to give input to that plan. And so we had some conversation at last meeting about, what should that group's purpose be moving forward? And there was a request to ask the commissioners what you think their role should be moving forward. So just a heads up on that, and I'll send some more information so we can kind of circle back to that at a later date.
So one of the things I'm noticing is this looks like this fund balances are going to grow quite considerably between now and estimated end of next year, correct? your ending fund balance.
Yes.
So are there opportunities that we're not spending that money on, or?
Yeah, so we've shifted over this last year, we've shifted some of what we were funding over to our consolidated homeless grant. So that's a little bit of savings there. What we'll see for 26, we'll see some of those bigger projects carry forward. So Habitat, for example, and the Catlin and Maine project, those are bigger, 700,000 each projects. They haven't spent all of that funding yet, so we'll see those balances carry forward into 26 if the board is okay with extending those contracts out, so they can do that. But yes, it looks like we anticipate accruing some more funding in there next year.
Okay.
Okay. Carolyn's not in either. Okay. Brandy? You want to unmute and we can go over your item? There you go.
I don't have anything. I'm just attending. I'm not on the agenda.
Not yet. She's talking, isn't she? Who's,
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Not very well.
Okay, hold on. Let me put something in the chat.
Oh, the number 17 resolution. She didn't have anything to present.
I have nothing to present.
So this is item 17. We're just doing away with the old travel policy and establishing that new one. You've kind of presented that to us and we've taken a look at it.
Yeah, this is going to be replacing the existing travel policy and moving it more towards a reimbursement of expenses. So it's not only going to include just the travel things, it's also going to include other items that you be reimbursed for, like just if you went for the day, there's other stuff that was listed in there that we wanted to make sure that they were included in the travel policy. So,
Have we seen the updated travel policy?
Indeed.
or it's now going to be called the reimbursement of expenses policy. And I did provide that to all. We had
That is the
the
last.
civil attorneys, yeah, have reviewed it and approved it. There was a couple adjustments from Commissioner Farrell. Those were added onto it. So this is the last edited one that we would like to go forward to be approved.
Okay. Just move into juvenile. George?
Good morning, Commissioners. George Moya, Juvenile Court Administrator. Tomorrow on the agenda, you have 3 personal services agreements for approval. I'm not sure what order you have them on your end, if you'd like me to cover one in particular first or just dive in.
Well, the way they're showing up on ours is the Guardian ad litem
Yeah.
and then Creative Solutions. And then Darnell and Associates.
Okay, so the personal services agreement with our local Calais County Child Advocates. This is really a pass-through grant that supports this services. The total is $91,960 for the calendar year. We have done business with them for 9 years in our community. Essentially, they provide services for child guardian ad litem services for children in dependency cases for juvenile court. And again, this is a pass-through grant, and that's from administrative offices of the court.
Just so I'm educated, when we chose the Child Advocates, the group to pass it through to, how did we get there? Do we have to review that every so often, or is that just is it more the courts say this is who we're going to use, but the money runs through?
No, it usually goes from AOC to them because they're the only agency that's providing guardian ad litem services, these type of services. A lot of the work that they do is volunteer work. The funding that covers this, it's like some overheads on some FTEs and to help manage all the volunteers. But it really comes through AOC.
Yeah, okay.
So how do we determine, or how do we come up with the 91,000?
That is determined by AOC, and they do it on a caseload analysis based on the number of dependency cases being filed. And I think there's I'm not certain, but the formula that they use is not only new cases, but also some of those cases can last, unfortunately, 2-3 years before they're done with the courts. When you're looking at parental rights and terminating parental rights for these youth, it's not an easy process, and it's very lengthy and it's convoluted. There's a lot of parties in that case. Each parent has their own attorney, and we have a child advocate for the child in the child's best interest. Typically, children don't get attorneys, so we need someone to represent a child.
So how much was this for last year?
Last year was the exact same funding.
Okay. Who tracks how that money's spent or keeps?
We do at juvenile court. We do the grant management of that grant, pass-through grant. Essentially, we get their invoices. We tally all that up and provide that to AOC as a reimbursement, and we get paid in that way.
So are you going to end up over or under this number for the end of this year?
No, it's pretty much the 91,000. It's for 12 months essentially. Next year around July 1st, they go on a state fiscal year, so they start July 1st. We'll have some idea by probably August or September, around there. Sometimes they're a little bit late on telling us what the funding's going to be.
But do they usually exhaust all 91,000?
Pretty much. Yeah, 91,000, unfortunately, is not enough to cover all the services that they provide.
Yeah.
It's very minimal.
Well, I think you answered my question on why they pass it through us. They use us as the accounting service for this, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's
Would that be true on the other two too?
One of them, well, the other two are DCYF state funds.
Those are different.
Those are
Okay.
state fundings, yeah.
All right.
Any other questions on the child advocates? PSA, okay. Creative Solutions, we've had this personal services agreement with Creative Solutions. This is to providing family services, family therapy services to youth involved in our court system. This is an evidence-based program. Again, this program is grant funded. The total is 17,750. The grant funds are from state DCYF grant funds. We've had this personal services agreement for 12 years. Typically, we do amendments to these, and this is why these are coming before the BOCC today and tomorrow for final approval, is that in receiving recommendations from our civil and saying, we don't want to extend these to so many amendments. It's better to kind of get a fresh start on some of these again, and especially as county language contract changes. And it's recommended that we go a new route in terms of getting a whole new PSA again. As you'll see, I'm not sure if you have, or you may have them tomorrow, you have all the amendments attached to our request. Any questions about the family services?
Did you say that that's for animals, pets?
No. This is for family therapy services. So essentially, if there's familial issues in the home with a youth, a teenagers having major issues at home, we have functional family therapy, as we call it. It's a therapist, if they qualify for the program, they have to qualify for the program, where a therapist actually goes to their home and start having the therapy sessions to get to the root causes of whatever the turmoil may be.
For some reason, I thought that service animals were involved in that.
No,
Okay.
no.
So this has been ongoing for 12 years and we're seeing it because legal wants to put some amendments. They want to update
Correct.
the agreement to get it more in line with us.
Correct.
Okay.
And, yeah. Not only that, we're also, previous contracts didn't align with the termination date ending on a state fiscal year. And that's another reason why we're doing these, to end on a state fiscal year, especially as we're talking contracts and they want to try to negotiate a different fee. Sometimes they're locked in and they can't request anything outside of that contract. I can't entertain any idea as to an increase in fees if we're under contract, first and foremost, and these are state grant funds. In this case, is a state grant fund, so I would have to talk to the grant manager for the state.
George, are these programs exclusive to kids that are in the juvenile system, or because CIHS offers some of the same stuff?
They do. They offer, so children and teenagers, adolescent youth that don't get involved in our criminal system, they can go directly through DCYF if they're having issues, and they can go straight through DCYF. This one's in particular is for youth that are coming to our system.
Okay.
Yeah. And the DCYF contract directly is through essentially DCYF and the provider if they're outside of the court services. Mhm. Okay, if you don't have any questions, I can move on to Darnell and Associates, personal services agreement. We've had this agreement for 8 years. Back in 2017, this is essentially outpatient sex offense specific treatment to youth involved in suspended dispositions. Typically, as we call it, a SOTA, the acronym is Special Sex Offender Disposition Alternative. So youth that have been court ordered under this disposition alternative to do treatment, they are to follow those services. And if they don't follow those services, the court can revoke and terminate their SOTA and essentially be sentenced to a state institution. So this is an opportunity for individuals that qualify for the program to stay in the community, work the treatment services, and if they're not successful with the treatment services, then their case gets revoked and they can be looking at a longer sentence in a state institution. And this too is also DCYF state grant. It's our consolidated block grant that we have. Essentially, if we don't have enough cases, we don't have the expenses.
How many cases do we end up with this? Do you know? Any idea?
With the soda
Yeah.
program, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes we'll have 6 in a year. Others, we've had 8. I've had that
Oh, okay.
caseload a while back and we had about close to 15 youth in that program.
Do they age out of that program?
Well, it's 2 years. So technically, if you are 17 years old at the time that your case concluded and you were granted the disposition, we can have them on supervision under juvenile jurisdiction until 18, or sometimes 19 if they were really on the cusp of being 18 years old. But we can. Mhm. And again, if they get terminated, they will. If their case gets terminated and revoked, then they will get sent to a state institution. And now JR is holding them from 18 to 25 years of age.
So if they're 14 years old, they stay in the program till they're 18?
No, it's a 2-year program.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is it counseling, medication? What are they?
It's very specific to sex offense treatment. It is about what, the treatment can range, and it's in combination with the therapist that provides intensive treatment, individual treatment, they do group treatment, and we also have a polygrapher. Sometimes they have to come in and do a polygraph to see if they are being consistent with their story. And so it's a combination of a polygrapher. We don't have that PSA before you today, but we do have services with the polygrapher too, to provide those services, also paid through the grant.
Do we know what the recidivism rate is for people who go through that program?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I look at that in 2 ways too. One, how many soda have we revoked? I don't think we've revoked many. Recidivism rate, that's a different story. We'd have to look at the data, because that's pretty much a 2-year time study to look into. So I can look that up and have better data
Yeah,
for
it
you.
would be interesting to see
Yeah.
how many of the kids that go through that program don't end up on a sex offender list as adults.
I can tell you the time that I had the caseload, it was very low recidivism rate. But again, I've had that maybe about 10 years ago. I don't know what it looks like now. Any questions regarding that?
Okay. And
Thank
I'm
you.
assuming like the previous one, we're seeing it because legal wants to put some amendments and stuff. Okay.
Correct. New language, new amendments. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
I think we just covered it. That Fish Recovery Board still not on it. Looks like all Fish Recovery Board is, I think Commissioner Rader, you sit on this one, don't you? Or that, it's just we're extending that agreement to the end of December 2030. I think it's a worthwhile
It
thing
is.
that we're doing there, so I don't see any issues with that one. Public Works.
Morning, Commissioner Sean Roy, Public Works. I'm going to jump in before Susan gets through her list. The first item is a call for bids. This is our annual rental equipment for Public Works. We rent equipment through state contracts as well. We continue to do this local request for bids because we do have local entities that supply equipment, and we want to make sure we give them the opportunity for that service to the county. And so the opening date on this is scheduled for December 15th at 1:30.
All right, good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. I'll try and go slow so we don't get these all discombobulated. We're trying to get our end of the year items done before the end of the year. So we have quite a few contract amendments before you this week. So the first one is amendment number 3 for the professional services agreement with Gibson Olson for the Woodbrook wastewater treatment plant evaluation. This is purely a time extension. There's no cost. It extends this out to the end of 2027. This contract is where we're looking at the alternatives for the replacements of the Woodbrook wastewater treatment plant. There's been some changes at Ecology, so we were heading down one path. They wanted us to do an I&I project first, and we were all ready to get going on that. And they've now said, no, your plant's been out of compliance for too long, so you need to do a treatment plant upgrade. So the consultant is changing gears, and that's why we're extending it, because we've had a change in the middle of the project. But at this time, there's no cost change. Okay, our next item is the local agency professional services agreement with Ecological Land Services. This extends the contract to December of 2026 and adds an additional $50,000 to this contract. This is ELS. They are a local agency, and this is an as-needed contract. We request items such as fish trapping when we're doing a maintenance project where there's a stream. They help us with permitting for items like that, and especially on emergency projects. We have spent the initial 150,000, and so we're requesting an additional 50 for the 2026 calendar year.
Are we requesting it because we went over this year? We had to ask for more money?
We did not ask for additional this year. It was originally a 2-year contract, and we have spent almost to our limit. So we're asking for an additional year with some funding to do our other small items moving through the year. A lot of their tasks are a couple $1,000s, but we use them enough that we need to have a contract with them. We do have 2, and you'll see the other one coming also for a time extension. We do have 2 environmental consultants that we use as an as-needed basis throughout the year to support our projects that we're designing in-house. They help us give us support for environmental permitting. So they'll go out and they'll delineate wetlands and work on getting our permits together. So that is what we use them for, and we use them for small tasks, maintenance tasks. So next is the supplemental agreement number 4 with Engineering Solutions LLC for the as-needed landfill gas engineering services. We're asking to extend this contract to the end of the next calendar year and add an additional $100,000 to this contract. That $100,000 is going to be used to the continuation of, as you recall, about a month ago, we awarded and executed the contract for the vertical gas wells. Engineering is the company that designed that project, and so we need engineering services during the contract for QA, QC to be out there and verifying the depths and the construction. So these are for services during construction under this contract. You will see in a few weeks, we did go out for RFP for these services again, and you'll see that new contract coming either December or early January. Next item is supplemental number 2 for the local agency consultant agreement for the as-needed environmental services with Environmental Science Associates. This is our second environmental. This request is only to extend the end date of their contract because we have not expended as much with this company as the other. So we do not need additional dollars on this contract.
Susan, can we go back to 8? I'm sorry. I didn't catch, why are we increasing it 20%?
Because they did a design project for us, which is not, was not included in our original consideration of costs. So they designed the vertical wells. And as part of that project, we need one of their representatives, their engineers, out on site when they're drilling these vertical wells to verify the depths and that it's going to meet the design parameters, and then provide that information per requirements of Southwest Clean Air Agency.
So I might jump in there and give it an example of some of the ways we might utilize them. So if we're drilling a well and maybe at the marked location, we find a large spool of wire that they're unable to go through or some other obstruction, would utilize them to mark a new spot, have a new certified depth that we can drill that well to, because we always want to protect that bottom liner. It's the most important part of the landfill itself. Find the new position, get that ready to go, and start drilling a new well in place of that, or some other technical issue that happens during the construction progress that's unknown.
So the original 450 was for a number of wells and we added engineering to it?
So the original 450 was day-to-day support, some monitoring that needs to be done, and then covered the design of this, which was not anticipated 2 years ago when we initially signed the contract, or 3 years ago. I don't know the right date off the top of my head. So the original agreement was signed in 2022. So this is one of our longer agreements.
So as Susan mentioned, they also do all of our quarterly and annually reporting items for us, our third-party verification with the state. That's a newer item. So they do a lot of other services besides just this project. The specific request is specific to the vertical wells and any ongoing items for that project.
And did SWACA change the requirements from 2022 to now? Is that why we had to have it engineered to meet their specifications?
No, we had to actually design the project itself. So we had an original overall plan from when we opened the landfill, but as we got into actually drilling the wells and getting that process going, we needed a more precise project for the actual well locations, the gas pipelines, the air pipelines, the leachate pipelines, and any other supporting infrastructure for those, like a lot of it's ran off compressed air. So how we're going to get those lines in, where we're going to have the compressors at, designing it so we can scale that in the future and things of those nature.
So it wasn't that the requirements were changed by SWACA, it was just we hadn't done that from the get-go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're changing from horizontal wells to vertical wells. Yes.
And so we had a 2-year agreement that got us for $450,000, had us covered. Now we're going to 3 years for 550. Is that right? That cover it?
So we're just extending one more year to
Right?
cover this project and up to $100,000 additional
In
dollars.
addition, okay.
So did we have any other questions on the environmental ESA before I moved on to the next? All right, so the next item is the amendment number 3 to the Toutle wastewater treatment plant improvements with Gibson Olson. This project is currently under construction, and this is an extension of the contract, not a cost increase. The construction is getting close to being finished. We're waiting on the genset. There was a long lead time for that. Once that is in, they will be assisting per their original contract with some of the startup and the final report to Department of Ecology. There are items that are already in their task, but because the timeline of the construction has run long, we need to extend their contract so that they can finish up those items in 2026. All right, so our next item is supplement number 3 to the General Civil Engineering Services with PBS Engineering and Environmental Incorporated. This will increase the contract for $100,000 and extend it to the end of 2026. They have a couple of task orders that are still open that we need to finish out in 2026, including the transportation system plan. So we're adding a few dollars to make sure we have enough to get through the end of the project. We are currently in the process. We went out to RFQ for our general as needed civil contracts and are in the process of selecting new contracts moving forward. But this will just end up our existing contract that was signed in 2022.
So these are not significant enough changes that we have to go out for bid or go out for quotes for services again.
Not the minor things that they have left. That is why we're out for a new as needed. We renew our as needed every 4 years. Open it up for competition, see if there's somebody else new that we'd like to be doing business with. These contracts, we use them for things like if we have an emergency and we need somebody to design a quick wall for us. So we have them as needed, so we can just call them up and they come out. So we currently have 3 contracts, and each one, they've ranged in the amount of $800,000 to just over $1 million that we've spent in the past since 2022. And they're finishing up their items in 2026. Other items we've used them on are our Brian Abbott Fishberry removal projects. So they've done a couple of those culverts projects. And in this time period, we also had to redo our bridge rating. And so all 3 of these consultants did about $500,000 of bridge rating work for us, which was a federal requirement for us to update our bridge ratings. And you will see in 2026 and 2027, we have to go back yet again for a new classification of trucks. And it's an item that CRAB has been lobbying the legislature, and they have set up a grant program for us to do that load rating, but we will need consultants to do it. So that's part of what the next round of consultants will be doing for us on these as needed.
Okay.
I can bring a list of what they have done with us. So if you have more questions, I'll have them.
No, I'm just wondering, you reach a point, instead of extending a contract, you're actually changing the language in the contract enough that we need to go out and have a open competition for the position again. So I'm just wondering where you cross that line at. Apparently, we're not crossing it by extending the contract and increasing the hourly rate.
And that is just to finish up what they have, which is why in the next month, you will be seeing a whole new set so that when we have new items that start in 2026, one of these new consultants will be obtaining this work.
Okay.
It may be PBS, it may not. I couldn't tell you until after we do our selection.
Okay.
All right, our next item is amendment number 3 to RH2 Engineering's contract for the Riderwood Supplemental Water Source. This is an end date extension. We are getting close to getting that project out to bid, and this will be to provide responses and support during construction. responses to contractor questions. All right, item number 13 is the supplemental agreement number 1 with Exeltech Consulting for the Rose Valley Road Culvert Replacement Project. This is at milepost 7.72. This is just extending the completion date to the end of the next calendar year. We have had some delays with WashDOT on this project, so we're hoping to be able to get this out to bid next year, but there's no cost change on this amendment.
Susan, is this pretty common as we get towards the end of the year that we have to go back and do all this stuff for a
Yes.
lot of these contracts?
Yes, that's why we have so many. I've been told by the attorneys that I need to make sure I get them all done before the end of the year, or they're going to make me go back out to rebid, because then they'll be Frankenstein contracts. So we have been lumping these all together, and you're seeing a lot of them right now. We only have a few more after this set that we need to finish before the end of the year. All right. Yeah.
I think if I explain this, these items from 6 to 13, I think an explanation would be, hey, we're changing the end dates on these. We typically will do that at the end of the year. Some of them have some increases on because there's projects ongoing that we're trying to complete. And typically we will do that with contracts through a 4-year cycle and then redo the whole thing.
Yes.
That would be pretty accurate.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next item is item number 16, the resolution designating applicant agent with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Oh, excuse me, it's number 18. I'll fix that on my piece of paper. Number 18, designating applicant agent for U.S. Department of Agriculture for financial assistance. So this would designate myself, with my alternate being Chris Andrews. This is common for federal agencies when you're receiving funding from them. This, excuse me, is the funding for the Riderwood supplemental water system that we're trying to finalize. We need this unless Commissioner Dahl would like to be the one assigning everything and entering everything into their system. I figured that. We, for example, every time we have a disaster, we need to do a similar resolution for FEMA. So that keeps Public Works running, getting all the information in. The final contract will come to the board for signature.
And it sounds like these are project specific.
Yes, this is specific to the Riderwood
So if
supplemental water.
something's needed that's not part of the right of wood, then it comes to the three of us.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good. Questions? No.
Okay, that's the end of my consent agenda items. Now we'll move to the motion items. So the first motion item that we have is supplemental agreement number 2 for Jacobs Associates Incorporated, doing business as Delve Underground. This is our as-needed geotechnical services engineer. This contract was signed in 2023, so it's only been in place 2 years. We're requesting an extension to the end of 2027, so for another 2 years, and increasing the amount payable to $600,000. The original contract was $300,000. We'd like to do an additional $300,000, and the justification for this: over the past 2 years, We have spent $299,175 with this consultant. We know moving forward that we are planning on doing a minimum of 2 landslide studies, which all come in at the cost of $100,000 approximately, and that's the full year monitoring, their recommendation for a project, and the drilling. The other items that they do for us, they respond during emergency situations. So they have been out for 2 landslides that I can think of for last year, one on Rose Valley Road where we had those large boulders out towards the end, and then off the end of East Canyon View. They come out, they look at them, they give us recommendations on what we should do moving forward. We also use them on, they drill for foundation recommendations for our bridges and our culverts. So these are the type of services that we use this particular firm for.
In a nutshell, it sounds like we're renewing the same 2-year contract we had for another 2 years.
Yes,
With the same amount.
for the same amount because we spent that amount. And we're hoping for not a lot of emergencies so that we don't have to spend. But I say that every year.
Susan, it says negotiated hourly rate. Who negotiates that?
So their negotiated hourly rates are, they actually have to get, if you see, if it's in the documentation, they actually get their rates approved by WashDOT with their overhead. So we go through their rates and make sure that they're comparable to what we're seeing from others, and then their overhead is approved by WashDOT. They do a whole auditing of these large firms. So you'll see that negotiated hourly rate is a WashDOT approved rate on this type of contract that could use federal dollars on it.
So WashDOT approved means negotiated.
Yes, they negotiate them. We make sure there's nothing out of line, like they have one person that gets paid $1,000 an hour. We make sure that their prices are in the range of what we're seeing from other consultants. All right, our next motion item is supplemental agreement number 2 with OTAC Incorporated for the Allender Road Bridge Replacement Project. This project, actually, our bids opened last week. We had a very favorable bid, so you'll be seeing the bid award request next week. So this supplement will add construction phase engineering services and extend the end of the contract to December 31st, 2027. We're asking for a $100,000 increase to a new maximum of $462,069. This is one of our more standard practices. We'll do a design contract with the recommendation that when we go through it is when we get to the construction phase, we will then negotiate how much construction services we are anticipating to use from that firm. So a simple road project, it's more like $20,000, but this is a bridge and we're anticipating them being out there during borings, during certain rebar settings, so that it's more involvement by the engineer on record, because they need to sign off on the end and do the load rating, and that load rating is included in this increase.
When we have these increases that we like, particularly on today's stuff, I know a lot of these projects we get grant money for. When we include these increases, is that included in the grant money, or do we have to make up this cost?
This is included in the grant dollars. So this is a WashDOT bridge replacement project. So when you obligate your dollars, so we obligate a construction amount. So in this case, I think it was $1.8 million for construction. We also obligate a line for public works staff to be out on inspection, our special testing, which is done through Terracon, and whatever construction support we are going to have. So I believe this bridge project, we get reimbursed at 86.5%. So we have to we pay the other 13.5%. All right, don't get too, oh no, never mind. Oh yeah, don't get too excited. It's my last item. So the last item we have is the local agent agreement and federal aid project prospectus for the Coal Creek Road Improvements Project. So this is a new project, and this will obligate design money with WashDOT for the design of Coal Creek Road improvements from milepost 1.44 to 2.0. This takes off, so as you head off of Ocean Beach Highway, there are shoulders for a stretch, and then it goes down to our very narrow country-ish lane with no shoulders. So this takes off from that point where it ends, milepost 1.44, and continues on to about milepost 2, which is where there is a large fish passage structure that we decided we did not want to tackle as part of this project, do a straightforward, just a road improvement project. So this will obligate the PE and right-of-way phase, which is $499,500. The construction phase gets obligated as we get closer to that point. This is an 86.5% federally funded project with us doing the 13.5%. We are going to pursue CRAB dollars to help bring down the local agency part during the construction phase is our plan for this project because the total project cost is expected to be $3.6 million.
And what's the goal of this project?
The goal is to correct some of the vertical curves out there and give us basic shoulders and reconstruct the roadway.
Okay.
So that's the pleasure of the board if they'd like us to pursue this project. If not, we can turn back the funds before we even obligate it.
I want to know when it gets started. If you've driven Coal Creek, between Coal Creek and Castle Rock, there's nobody that does 35 miles an hour out that road. If you're
Yeah.
doing 40, you're going to get rear-ended.
Mm-hmm.
I have an off-topic, on-topic question. You're talking about the Coal Creek Road. Do we have anybody who goes around and evaluates our roads and makes sure that we're not liable for like that curve is too, it doesn't have enough whatever? I know we have code, but counties still get sued for roads being made to code. So I'm just, do we have anybody in our,
And speed limit signs that are behind tree branches.
yeah,
So the signs should be being observed by the sign shop, but you'll see one of the items on the 6-year plan that you'll see next week is a clear zone inventory, and which is being funded by grant dollars, and that will have a van with all kinds of cameras and sensors that will drive the county roads, especially the arterials and collectors, and will record the curves and the radiuses, and then what we have on the roadsides that are hazards, to give us a database and a place to start so we can start, improving our safety program applications to correct some of these curves. These projects such as South Cloverdale, Coal Creek is how we start addressing some of them on a large scale. We do have a safety grant also coming out for Whitewater. I'm blanking on whether it's a road or a drive, which has a substandard curve that is also narrow. So that we were just recently awarded grant dollars to go ahead and redesign that curve and widen the roadway. So that is another project we'll be starting on next year using our grant funding to correct. But yet, no, we do not currently have a good database of where all our substandard curves are. Everybody knows a bunch of them off the top of the head, but we are trying to get a better list of, here are our curves that are an issue, here are our culverts that are an issue, so we can start systematically replacing them. And that's why we do have a guardrail database that has locations of where we should be adding guardrail.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Is that it?
That
Are you
is it.
sure?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That is all I could provide for you this week.
Only 2 pages.
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica. Looks like a list today, or is all this you? Oh, okay.
Good morning, Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I just have a request for an executive session to discuss qualifications of an applicant. 10 minutes.
Okay. Executive session qualifications of an applicant, 10 minutes?
Yep.
We can do that.
Okay.
Wow.
Executive session, no decisions rendered. I don't think we have anything else. Okay. Okay. The Fair Board, were you expecting anybody in or?
Kim was not able to make it, but she wanted me to let you guys know that she supports the applicant.
She was okay with the applicant? If she's okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I saw risk management in and now they disappeared.
Yeah, Marissa wasn't here.
Why don't we just move into your stuff? It looks like risk management, there's a couple of executive sessions, right? Okay. So do you mind if we take care of this? Okay.
Gina James, Health and Human Services. I just wanted to touch base with the board. We have, to get these things on your radar, we have several contracts that are set to expire in December at the end of this year. And we also have a few contracts that are just now getting to us from the state fiscal cycle. So they've just kind of come to us a little bit late. So I'm just going to kind of run through these. The first section you see there are the coordinated entry contracts. We have transitioned funding these from document recording fees to the consolidated homeless grant. What I'd like to do to get it on the same funding cycle, these contracts currently are set to expire the end of December. I'd like to just do an amendment and add a 6-month allocation and set the expiration date to June 30th of 26 to get it on the same cycle as our CHG grant. So it kind of aligns it in that sense. So that's what I'd like to do with those ones. Some of our other housing and homeless contracts, we have emergency support shelter, shelter operations, housing opportunities of Southwest Washington for Phoenix House. Those are set to expire the end of December as well. These I'm proposing to do a new contract for the new calendar year with the same amounts. The emergency support shelter we've been doing at 100,000 for their shelter operations, and then have been doing an additional $50,000 in a match. So they've submit their donations, and we provide up to 50,000 in a match component. So that's what we've been doing in that contract. With the Habitat for Humanity and Lower Columbia CAP for their Catlin and Maine project. These are construction type projects, and they are also set to expire the end of December. They both have not utilized all of this funding. It takes some time for them to secure other funding and get the projects going. So what I'm suggesting is just extending the end date out of those contracts for another year, so they have some more time to utilize that.
You wouldn't expect them to come back looking for more money next year if they spend this before the year's out?
I don't think so. It's always a possibility.
Okay.
I know Habitat is just working through permit process with Kelso.
Yeah, they're early stages of their one project. Yeah, and the same with the Catlin and Maine project.
Same deal there.
Yeah, they have secured all their funding now, and so they're starting along those same lines. One of our state contracts that we see each year is Criminal Justice Treatment Account contract. This is state funding that comes from the Healthcare Authority. This particular funding is to serve those who are in the criminal justice system, most often individuals participating in our therapeutic court programs, and they have a substance use disorder. So this contract pays for some substance use treatment for those individuals. So we have what you see is the state contract in the amount of $590,000 for a 2-year period. It does have a start date of July 1, so it goes back to July 1, ending June 30th of 2027. So that's a 2-year contract. And we have 2 providers that we've been working with the last several years, Columbia Wellness and Cowlitz Family Health Center, who serve individuals who are eligible for this funding. We also are working with therapeutic courts and looking at an amount that might be allocated with therapeutic courts. So we've been doing that the last few years where drug court and mental health court have been utilizing some of this funding. And so we're looking at continuing that as well.
Do we know how much of an increase we're going to be able to bill CGTA funds through the drug court?
So with the addition of some of their staff certifications, they'll be able to bill a little bit more than they have been for case management, for example. So it will be, I don't have a good idea of what that will look like, but that will be, they are able to utilize more of it because of that. So where this current year, they utilized, I think, about $32,000. I think they'll be able to do more than that with the addition of being able to bill some of that case management service. And then on the back side, we have the Community Development Block Grant. We just did a hearing for this one. We have the state contract that is, last year's contract was a 2-year contract. That's why the funding amount is so different. But this current year, it's $70,000. The county keeps about $3,500 for our cost, and so we'd be passing down the $67,500 to Lower Columbia CAP for Meals on Wheels. And then a couple other contracts we have sort of on the health department side that are set to expire the end of December. One is our contract with the health officer. This one is almost 80,000 for the year. So we would be looking to do an amendment just to continue to have his service.
Dr. Krager.
Dr. Krager, yep. And then we also have a contract with Lower Columbia School Gardens. This is $150,000 for the calendar year. What we're proposing, and this was paid for with the Foundational Public Health Services funding. We're proposing a 6-month allocation in the amount of $75,000, partly because we don't know what our funding will look like going forward with FPHS. And so ending it in June aligns with the funding cycle. And so we kind of want to see what happens there.
Gina, on the Meals on Wheels funding,
Mhm.
if it's not used for Meals on Wheels, what else can it be used for?
There's a list of public service activities that are approved. It comes from the federal government, and it's a variety of community service type things. So some of the items are, different types of programs for seniors or youth, or it's kind of a range of public service type activities. When we've explored different options in the past with CAP, because the funding does have to go to CAP, and then they could use it for different activities. What we came back to was it's challenging to use it for other things that they don't also have other funding for.
Or
Yeah, because it's doesn't necessarily make a whole program. And so with Meals on Wheels, it made sense because they receive some other funding for Meals on Wheels as well. So it kind of helps to create a whole program.
So that grant essentially just supplements Meals on Wheels. And is that the 133,000? Is that what that block grant amount is every year, or do you ask for more for different programs?
It's a set amount each year. We just get, when they know when the state knows what they're getting, they just send out what every county is getting. Yep.
So who gets to determine if that money gets used on something besides Meals on Wheels, you or CAP?
That would be a discussion that we would have with the board. Yep. So, ultimately, it would be a board decision. But in previous conversations with CAP, that's kind of where we've landed with Meals on Wheels and continuing that just because of the amount of funding and that they get other funding for that same program.
And why do we have to give it to CAP?
It's the way the funding is designated at the federal level. It's for that public service grant is to go towards community action agencies. So that's how it was designated at the federal level. So that's how it comes to the state and then down.
And CAP is the only community action that we have in our county?
Yes. And I think the way that it's established, I'd have to look back. I researched the history at one point in time, but I don't think that another community action agency would be approved in our region because they try to have one per regional area.
If I recall, I think that comes open like every 4 years and people have the opportunity, like an RFP, and CAP's really the only
Mhm.
one that ever,
That
yeah,
applies for it.
yeah.
Yeah, for that designation.
So it does come open if others want to tackle that, but nobody has.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last item I just wanted to mention here too, we had been looking at, I don't know if you recall a couple weeks ago, we had an amendment to our state contract with Department of Health that added some funding for public health infrastructure. It was up to $200,000. We did get approval from the state to do a project like transition our food program over to Acela from our current database. So the state has said, yeah, we would support the funding going towards a project like that. Our next step would be to issue a request for proposals to look at who might be interested in doing that work. We have talked to a couple agencies just to see if there's interest out there. It sounds like we would get a couple responses, and maybe one from the organization that Building and Planning had utilized for some assistance with Acela before. And so our next step would be to do that request for proposals and get a funding amount and see what that looks like. So I just wanted to mention that may be coming on an agenda.
I don't have any issue with your suggestions here, Ed. The general conversation on coordinated entry. Have we ever looked at one entity to handle this and disperse out? And the only reason because I wonder when I see the individuals do it, I think that's fine, but, and I won't pick on anybody here, but what the tendency is, if you're doing it, you're going to try and direct people to yourself. And so I'm wondering sometimes if it's independent, if it actually improves the service that the people get. And I don't know how to track that, but it's just a thought.
Yeah, so long time ago, the county used to work with just one agency who did coordinated entry. And at that time, there was some other things going on, and the county decided to shift away from working with the one provider and looking at different ways to do coordinated entry. And so in going through that process, we decided to work with multiple agencies. We did a request for proposals. We got some proposals in from a few organizations and decided to move forward with that. What we've found in the couple years that we've been doing it this way with these few providers is one that individuals like to be able to choose where they go to connect with people, and sometimes it's where they're already going to receive service. So like emergency support shelter, for example, people are accessing their services, and then ESS can just do the coordinated entry piece right then and there. The same with community house, so people are accessing shelter, so they can do that piece right there too.
Okay. So we have tried it the other way.
We have tried it the other way, and we had shifted away from that. That doesn't mean we couldn't consider, different options in the future, but.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I asked the same question when I started to sit on some of these boards, and ultimately what Gina just said is what was confirmed, that because they all offer different services, they kind of choose which one they want to go to if they're going to use the services on top of the coordinated entry that they're using. So.
Yeah, and so far we've found it seems to work well. That's, like I said, people choose where they want to go. And
I will say, and I've said this before, the coordinated entry doesn't seem very coordinated though, when you look at the whole program as a whole.
well, and it has a limited scope. And I think that's what we run into too is, people don't show up to coordinated entry and aren't able to get into shelter right away or get a hotel room or something like that they might be looking for. And so it's limited in its scope and what it does. So, and for that reason, I know we've talked a little bit before about the one-stop shop idea, and but it's just so limited that if we wanted to, allocate a bunch of more funding or grow it in terms of its scope, we could have those conversations, but.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Any other
Okay.
questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
Marissa Hutchison, Risk Management. We are requesting an executive session to review potential litigation and contract negotiations. And I think we need about 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes for both?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to executive session for potential litigation, contract negotiations, and we're looking at 30 minutes.
The board is extending the executive session for a period of 10 minutes until 11:20 a.m. The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 11:25 a.m. The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 11:30 a.m. The board is extending the executive session for a period of 5 minutes until 11:35 a.m.
Okay, back with our executive session. No decisions rendered.
You can walk out this one. That one will get you out the door.
What I see what do we have under Commissioner Travel? That's not till next year.
What is that?
Is this the one you were telling me about in April? Okay, I still need to look at what he wants with that. Anything else?
I had a couple things I wanted to just bring up to you guys. I took a tour of Cascadia Tech with one of the local timber mills that we have here with RSG in Cowlitz County. And Cascadia Tech is actually wanting to put a campus here in Cowlitz County. And they have the land designated up above the football field in Kalama. And they have a road already put in, location design's already been done. And they're looking for money at this point to help them with the construction. And they're talking to a lot of local businesses and looking at grant opportunities and things for funding. But I was wondering if there's any buildings that we have that might be vacant to hold the class for 25 kids that they might be able to utilize next year while they're in construction phase. I told them that I would just look and see if we had anything. I think it would be worthwhile for you guys to go and tour that place too. It's really, really cool, and they want to come to Cowlitz County and start a forest management program. They've talked to all the superintendents within our county, and all the superintendents are on board with having the program, and they feel that they can probably get 50 kids to attend the class. In first day, 25 kids, first half of the day, 25 kids, second half of the day, 25 kids. They currently have 23 kids in the forest management program in Vancouver at this point, but they're wanting to expand north. And so it was, I told them that I would talk to you guys, and if you're interested in taking a tour of the location, I can get somebody in touch with you guys to go and do that. It was really, I thought it was really worthwhile, really, really neat.
So you did the tour was in Vancouver?
You drive down to Vancouver and you get a tour of the school and see all the different classes and everything that they've got, how they work. They approached Cowlitz County because of the number of lumber mills that we have in our forest, the economy that we have here and the number of people that work within the timber industry. They thought it might be something that would be worthwhile. So
is their focus on cutting timber or
well,
growing it?
That actually, the one main thing that they said is that there is no such thing as forest management if we're not cutting logs. So the logging industry, they don't call it that anymore. They have a different name for it, but that is where that starts. And so they said there's no such thing as forest management if we're not cutting timber. So
Okay.
I thought that was really good. And I just wanted to bring you guys up to date. I had a Zoom call with Glusenkamp Perez's person and Cantwell's and Murray's assistants, along with David Hodges. And we came up with they all contacted the Army Corps of Engineers on their own as separate offices. And I forwarded you guys the response.
I saw it.
From the Corps. David seems to think that, well, he told us that the Corps is really tightening up their communication and not communicating
Yeah.
as much moving forward. So he was quite surprised at the response, given the fact that it was congressmen and women, you know, attempting to get a hold of them. So we're just gonna keep, keep making noise and putting it in front of them. Currently, we don't have any plan of action other than we're just gonna get together again and talk about what they did. Also on SWACA, I told you guys about the indirect, tax that they were looking at doing on business owners. I made a motion to shut that down at the beginning of the meeting, that we don't even discuss it any further. And we did, everybody voted we're not even gonna have that conversation, so that's done. We don't have to worry about that. And I don't know if you guys are taking calls and emails from the gun range, but I've taken quite a few from people that, some of the stuff that people put on social media is just crazy about what they think we're doing. But I've spoken with Tootle School, and Kelso and Castle Rock, people that are doing the trap shooting for the kids. And I put them in touch with Mike. They've got everything coordinated and scheduled out for the practices for the kids and the trap shooting. So that's taken care of. But that was one of the main things that I was getting phone calls on. And, but I think we're good to go with the schools and the trap teams. So that's what I had.
Okay,
Good.
we're good. We will adjourn.